Murray Bridge, and then I might head north back up to Morgan and just follow that Murray River just pretty much to its conclusion. Back up to meet up to where I've been. So I want to go to Morgan because I want to go to Porty Station, which is where I've got a flat tyre. You're kidding me. How did that happen? Oh, that sucks. Oh dear. Bugger. So we're at Lucendale Showgrounds, actually. I'm just here by myself. It's very nice spot. But it's quiet. That's what I like. I like nice, quiet places. There's no trains, there's no planes, trucks, or anything running around. A few places you stop. Like that pond that I stopped at Cockatoo Lake's fantastic, but the frogs and crickets and critters just making a noise all night. I like my evenings to be quiet. Anyway, hey, guess what, big bikers? It's a ride day today. I just got to go out of town a little bit to see if I can pick up this road, I think, which is just up here. And let's go back the other way. Time at 3 p.m. What's this one called? Hansberry. Look at this grove of trees. Wow. Welcome to South Australia. Actually pretty flash. Do you know, when I was coming down from Renmark, the country just changed, because you could see where you're leaving the desert, but it didn't kind of transition slowly. It kind of went from being wide open spaces and grain plains, and then you drive into these groves of trees that were just arching over the road, and just this beautiful green pastoral land all around. And it went from being land they were planting grain and seeds and all sorts of things, and it went from that to this real rich green lush country. I've actually been talking to a couple of farmers while I've been stopped. You know, they're going round, and whenever I stop to fly the drone or whatever, they always tend to pull up and say, hey, how you going? Everything all right? Which I think is fantastic. You know, I was talking to one of the farmers. He said they've been in drought for the last 2 years, and they've just had some really good winter rain, particularly that rain that we had over the last couple of weeks. And everything's, look at it, it's just so green and lush. But it's the change in the countryside that got me, that went from being vineyards to That looks like it's a driveway. Well, there's a road there on my map, but I'm just not sure about what the rules are for the this away. Anyway, so I don't know, not even what was I talking about? Yeah, the countryside. It's just fantastic. Now my map's showing this road goes straight ahead here. Kinda. So yeah, like if the temperature's about 18 degrees, it's fantastic riding weather. The blue sky, magnificent. I mean, again, nothing technical about any of this, but yeah, these roads are a little out of date, or the map's a little out of date. So we're back in Lucendale now. So it looks like I am not lost. I know exactly where I am. I'm just not sure how to get to where I want to go. I think we've got a little bit of bitumen to do, and then we're going to yeah. Great. See, that's just really bad. Oh, I don't think I'm on the right road. It's a road beside a road. Quiet. Oh, sandy. Go. Like I was saying, like the change in the country is so much more heavily watered here. It's not that it's been cleared, it's just that the soil up in the other place was just not conducive to growing trees of this size. Great for citrus and great for grapes and all that sort of stuff, but you know, this we're getting a long way south now, and we're back out of the desert country and into this kind of heavily treed parts where it hasn't been cleared. There's so much water lying around. That's the thing. And I was looking at the map, and there's just this string of lakes all the way down the limestone coast, it's called, and all the way down towards Mount Gambier. There's a line of lakes. I'll see if there's some up here because we're heading in that direction. I'll throw Doris up and see if we can get see if what that looks like, because it's just really interesting country. It's so different to, you know, just 100 kilometres north of here. Goes along the railway line. Oh, very rough. So I don't know how long ago the railway line was pulled out. So I'm wanting to tell you about the story of South Australia because it's a little bit unique in all the states in Australia. It's a little bit unique, and I don't have all the numbers in front of me at the moment, so I'll just give you a rough overview because it's very, very interesting. So in 1830, when Charles Sturt came down from Sydney and rode, as we know, down the Murray River and then back up again. After that, like, he's obviously to go back, tell the government, write the report, and all the newspapers of the day write this story about this wonderful land. And so the government then, later in 1830, sent a ship down here where the captain of the ship was called Captain Barker, named after Mount Barker in Adelaide, and a few other places just around that area. Anyway, he was killed by the Aborigines at down near the Fleurier Peninsula, which wasn't called it, but near Kangaroo Island. So he basically, they were moored just off Kangaroo Island, because as I mentioned earlier, it wasn't just the early explorers that were out here, because the whalers were here and the sealers. The sealers were based on Kangaroo Island, so they were clubbing their seals and killing them for their fur and killing the whales and extracting the oil. So those kind of things were being set up in the late 1820s and early 1830s. So when Captain Barker came down, he had an altercation with some local natives who had been, the sealers were pretty merciless. They didn't really care, and so they would go and they would attack the Aboriginals, steal their women, and rape and pillage and all that sort of stuff, all that white privilege stuff, So anyway, anytime the Aborigines or the natives saw a white fella, they killed him. So that's what happened was, and Captain Barker didn't know that at the time. He didn't know that the whalers had been doing that, or the seal hunters had been doing that. So when he walked, he actually swam over to the island, or swam over to the beach on the Fleurier Peninsula. Don't know the name of the beach, but he swam from the boat. So he only had a pair of, I suppose he's probably wearing Speedos. I don't know. Anyway, he's copped, he's had a couple of natives chasing after him, and they're pretty accurate, as we've talked about. So he copped a couple of spears, and they actually never found his body. There's a few places in and around South Australia that are named after Captain Barker. So anyway, so he went down there. The rest of his crew then went back to Sydney with reports of the fact that the land was fantastic. because that wasn't, you know, I should back up a little bit. So when they sent Captain Barker down, he actually found lots of really good places to build a harbour. He found that river. What's that river that goes up in Adelaide where the submarines are based now? So he's based, he found all that. He walked up Mount Barker, walked up all those little mountains up around the back of Adelaide there, and then basically with the sailing back around through, that's when he got killed. So they'd already discovered quite a bit of land. So it was then that, and it's a really interesting story because there was a group of wealthy pastoralists who had, you know, befriended Charles Sturt, said, hey, what's it really like? Said, yeah, I'm going there. And so they basically all wrote a letter and approached. They didn't approach the New South Wales governor, because remember at this time there was New South Wales and New Holland, and the ownership of New Holland was still under dispute. So, you know, because it was the Dutch that found it and named it, and it wasn't until Matthew Flinders had actually sailed all the way around the coastline of Australia in the early, like 1802 or something, and it wasn't until Matthew Flinders had sailed all the way around the coastline that they actually realised it was one big island. And so there was some negotiations with the Dutch about ownership, and it was in about mid-1820s, like 1825 or something like that, you know, New Holland became part of Australia, and that was it was the name that was given, but it was still called New South Wales at that stage, but it was on the continent, it was called Australia. Anyway, so these pastoralists in the early 1830s, they didn't approach the governor of New South Wales. They actually went directly to, where did that track go? They actually went directly to the UK Parliament and made a submission to buy a parcel of land, which we now know as South Australia, beginning at the 141st meridian longitude, as we know, which is on the west bank of the Glenelg River. So we'll get down there and have a look at that. And up into what they thought was the middle of Australia, which is that South Australian border with Northern Territory, which is where it is today. That really didn't change. But then the western edge, because there was still some dispute with the Dutch about ownership of that land, they didn't want to go right up against the border of what we now know as West Australian, South Australian border. So they actually came back to about the 129th, I think it was, just top of my head, I'll correct that, but that was it's a power line. Hang on, where am I? Firewater. Ooh, who doesn't like firewater? Must be a still up there, eh? Firewater. Okay. Interesting. Okay, we'll get down this way. Anyway, so they didn't want to go right over to the edge of what we now know as Western Australia, what was then known as New Holland. So South Australia was this chunk of land that was just cut out with some boundaries that they kind of made up. The northern one, they didn't really know what was north of there because John Stewart hadn't yet gone off exploring up through there. John Eyre had been for a couple of walks, but he found Lake Eyre and Lake Torrens, and he found it was actually Edward Eyre who found the Eyre Peninsula, the cliff tops along the Nullarbor Plains. He basically walked all the way over to what we now know as Esperance, and he walked back They actually got a lift back. I think he sailed back. They got a lift back with some sailors, and so yeah. So that was about as much as they knew about the inside of South Australia up until John Stewart then went off and explored the rest of it. So South Australia was just this cut-out section in the map. But the key thing about South Australia is that there were no convicts. That was none of those dirty, unwashed, penal colony heathens. They didn't want any of those. So South Australia is the only state in Australia that doesn't have a penal history. There's no convict settlements. There's no convict buildings. There's no. Obviously, they had jails because people were still, a bit naughty. And the reason that they were able to cut that off and buy it is because these wealthy pastorals had so much influence. And so basically, the governor of New South Wales was told, hey, by the way, cutting this section off, and they're going to self-govern. And it wasn't until Federation, obviously, that we all became part of that same Commonwealth. Anyway, I digress. Look at this country, though. Stewart's Range. Downs. It's called Stewart's Range. It's obviously the fire hut. The Stewart's Range is spelt wrong, spelt with a W, so it's not the one we're looking for. Stewart's Range Road. One of the other things about South Australia down this way, I better clear that lens, is the jolly blowflies. They're massive, and when they hit the screen or the camera will push, hitting a cow paddock. Look at this countryside though. It's so English. You can imagine why they loved it here and why they wanted to come down and settle the place. So I was talking to one of the farmers the other day, and these guys that love a chat, of course. So, and he said, you can't shear, can you? And I said, look, I'm a pretty quick learner, so if you taught me, I could probably do one a day, And he said, yeah, he's probably good for about 3. But the problem is, all the shearing that gets done by the Kiwis. So the Kiwis come over in their droves, fill up bus loads, and they travel around and go to shearing sheds like that. And they work in teams and they just bang out all the sheep. At the moment, obviously, the Kiwis can't come in. There's ruins. There's just ruins all over the place in South Australia. So they're having trouble getting workers to shear and to harvest because no one's allowed into. Well, they're allowed into South Australia, but they can't get out of Victoria, for example. Can't get into Australia from New Zealand. So a lot of the farmers are actually looking at selling their very healthy wool-producing sheep for lamb. So because they just can't get them sheared. So if you're a shearer, you're looking for work and you can get into Australia. Don't run. I don't like tough lamb. I like my lamb nice and tender. So yeah, so that's kind of a very broad stroke history of South Australia. And they came down in their droves from Sydney. They came overland, they came down along the Murray, because you follow the Murray along to Morgan. I was there the other day, went for a drive out that way. There's a massive dust storm out there too. So I went for a drive, and I went to Morgan, and the Murray River comes along from Victoria, heading west, and then it just turns south at Morgan and goes straight down towards Murray Bridge there, Lake Alexandrina. So yeah, it's I'll tell you what, these SA roads are in pretty good nick. There's Naracoorte just over there. I want to get over there and get some fuel. Find a spot to throw the drone up. You can see what this lake system like. I took some video at Cockatoo Lake Cockatoo, and you can see them all off in the distance, which is this way. So see if I can throw the drone up. And, again, another ruin in the middle of a field. Spot for a drone. So while I was droning on and on, the cows came over, just standing there, and I was kind of looking up at the drone and watching the screen and, you know, flying around, and I looked up and here they were all standing at the fence looking at me. So I flew over to have a look. They weren't particularly perturbed, I don't think. But no lakes up there. You just take it easy, fellas. Anyway, take my word for it. lots and lots of lakes through here. So I'm probably just going to do a big loop around here. We're looking at the map in terms of where the lakes are. They're all up through here, but you probably can't see it from the camera. But there's all these depressions in the they look like low swampy areas. So the Victorian border is basically over there on the other side of that horizon. So we're not going to do any of that because they're just all SA Pol are just all freaking out at the moment. So got to keep you dirty Victorians out. Unbelievable. Well, I just hope for your sake that you fellas get some reprieve soon, because I think there's some rumbling in the media at the moment, and he's been his old comrade Dan, his pants are on fire. So I think a lot of people are kind of getting caught up in the fact that the numbers that you guys have got in Victoria at the moment are the same and low as pretty much everywhere else in the country. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to go to the pub, or at least go for a ride on your motorbike, at least in all your motorcycle gear. It's like the South Australian early settlers didn't want any convicts or any of those unwashed masses to have access to this beautiful land. So I've been getting a few comments and messages from guys about the last video, now that I'm down in this part of South Australia, commenting on places that I should go. So thanks very much for that, fellas, really appreciate it. My plan was always just to get to the bottom corner where the Victorian South Australian border meet on the coast. I might have to do a bit of backpacking or hiking to get to that one, so big adventure heart attacks, I don't know. Anyway, we're going to get to that corner on the coast where South Australia meets Victoria, and then I'm going to plan is to follow the coastline back along. I have some experience around the Fleurier Peninsula and down to Victor Harbour, but the rest of the coastline in South Australia I don't really know much about. I'm probably going to go through to somewhere like Murray Bridge, and then I might head north back up to Morgan and just follow that Murray River just pretty much to its conclusion, back up to meet up to where I've been. So I want to go to Morgan because I want to go to Porty Station, which is where I've got a flat tyre. You're kidding me. How did that happen? Oh, that sucks. Oh dear. Bugger. The road's in pretty good nick. I might actually just ride it with my weight on the back, because I know I did that previously. I've got a heavy duty tube in there. I might just go to Naracoorte and see if I can put some air in it, because I've got to get fuel there anyway. I'm not going to make it back. That's no good. See if I can put some air back in it, if it'll hold, and I'll go back to the caravan with the air in it. I don't know why that's gone down though. Good thing is once you get a bit of centrifugal force up, it spins out and creates a bit. And I've got a an ultra heavy duty tube in there as well. So if I can make it back to the caravan, I'll be able to change that. It's obviously got a nail or something in it because I haven't hit anything. I've been pretty careful. Bugger. Oh well, look, let's. I can't remember what I was talking about. Yeah, I was talking about where I was going to be going, but I've got to sort this out now. So the back seems to be holding up okay, so whatever I ran over was just on the front. Alright, listen, I'm going to sort this out, and I'll talk to you when I get some air in it, and then I'll head back to the caravan, and I'll take care of this little issue. But this is exactly why I run ultra heavy duty tubes, so that if it does go down, I've actually still got some rideability. Because, as I said, as the centrifugal energy builds, the tyre spins out and creates a bit of a bit of space in the tyre. But I've got my weight right over the back. I'm sitting on my tool bag, weight as far back as possible. It seems to be going okay. Look, it's not flapping around the place like I'm doing nearly 100 kilometres an hour. The temperature, the back's starting to show a bit of heat. Alright, I'll update you if something more interesting happens. That's very odd how that happened. I could probably put off and change it there, but probably don't need to just now. But anyway, I'll keep you posted. Alright, I've done some rough calculations, and I reckon I've got enough fuel to get back to Lucindale. I'm just going to go back the way that I came. I really don't like slowing down. That's where it gets all wobbly and yuck. Yep. Come on. If I can get away without having to slow down, I'm alright. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm just going to go straight back to the caravan. I can make it back fuel wise. If I go to Naracoorte, I've got to negotiate slowly around the town without being able to maintain this kind of speed. I'm not going to go back the way I came though, because obviously that's it's quite rocky and rough. I'm just going to go back to this road that we're on, and then that joins up with the main sealed road. Just these kind of things where you've got to slow down. Yeah, yep. That's a problem. just... wants me to do 10. I can't do 10. The speed bump. Okay. It's nice and cushioned on the grass. Completely flat. Alright, thanks for tuning in, big bikers. That's probably not quite how I wanted to finish the ride, but you know, that's how it goes. I'm just going to pull that wheel off, and actually I might get the compressor out. I do have one with me, but so anyway, alright, I'll do that, and I'll report back later on. Well, good morning, big bikers. Well, here's the bike. Still got a flat tyre this morning. I haven't even bothered to take it off yet. I was hoping that overnight it might have reinflated itself, but no, she's still flat. So I've got to go into town to get a new tube anyway, because I don't like running with just one. So I'm going to take it off, take it into town, get them to do it. That's the advantage, you see, of being older and wiser. You can just do things at a much more leisurely pace. I've had my coffee this morning, and I'll take the wheel off and we'll go into town. Hey, g'day big bikers. Well, I'm always a bit worried about going to a bike shop. Why? You know, I could fit one of those. Little 390 beta, 4-stroke enduro bike. Yeah, you know. Alright, the bike, that's the problem. That is the problem. So it actually tore that from in there. Well, I went back through the footage and it showed 23 psi, so it was still inflated there, but it must have been when I pulled up, it must have been just enough for it to then tear that out. There's been, yeah, I don't know, there's a couple of, they're really hard to get at. There's a couple of pinch marks in it here, but they probably did that taking it out, because they're a real pain to get in and out, the heavy duty ones, ultra heavy duty. But anyway, that's it. Problem solved. Wheels fixed. I just got to put it back on the bike, and we're right to go. So that's what's been happening with me today. Just getting that sorted out, but I'll be able to go for a ride. There's a few places around here I want to go riding and check out. I want to actually do a run down to the coast. I think I'll stay here where I am at Lucendale for a while. So if you're floating around the area, give us a call and we'll try and hook up something and go for a ride. You can show me around. See you later.